Since you mentioned Yahweh, I'm gonna ask something. I watched a show documentary last night about Moses and the Pharaoh, and I'm not too familiar with religious studies, and it's due to my biased upbringing. So I'm gonna ask this question in the form of some ignorance.
Sure, that's
But
all right.
in watching the show, so the prophet Moses was to free his people. And then Yahweh was the God that was working with Moses. And the comment was, I am the destroyer. So as I'm watching this show, I had a couple thoughts. One was how, well, rather than asking that question, I was conflicted by a God wanting to destroy human life because of that pain and that sorrow. So
Yes.
I couldn't reconcile that thought. And then the other part was then as a youngster, I was fascinated by Egyptian gods. However, I had this sort of maybe a discernment that they were on the dark side, darker energies. And so as I'm watching the show, I notice these conflicting thoughts or unanswered thoughts within my head about my understanding of God, a God, so Yahweh versus maybe Osiris, Ra. And so I was curious about the energies around something that people may worship or believe in. And are there energies of divinity and benevolence? So I'm hoping that you could explain that to somebody who is very ignorant about this
Sure,
and
sure.
help me to reconcile this within myself.
Of course, yes, yes. Every day there are many, 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 many deaths on your planet. Animals, humans, plants, trees. Yes. And when this death occurs from some type of violent or destructive act, of course, it is seen as something on your planet that's wrong. Yes, there was some type of injustice or imbalance that occurred and caused this death to take place, and it's mourned. And that's, of course, very valid. And there is a necessity for those types of perspectives. So your society can become more harmonious. But there are many forms of death that are natural, yes, and you don't necessarily vilify them as evil or wrong things. You see them as a natural part of life, yes?
Yes,
Yes,
yes.
yes. So that is the destructive dimension of God. That's the destructive dimension of the source. The creative dimension of the source is the breath of life into a body. The destructive dimension is the removal of that breath from the body. So keep in mind that God's source, if it is truly all powerful, must be a master of both life and death. If it's only a master of life, it's not omnipotent, therefore it can't be God. So if
So
a
it
being
is
is
still,
all
so it's really is still accepting and knowing that there is a duality even outside of this realm, outside of Earth.
Oh, yes, yes.
And
Remember,
okay.
duality exists on every level except the monad, because duality, in its most neutral sense, is self and other. So, in these cosmic realms with extraterrestrial beings, there's duality. In these light realms where it's all angels, there's still duality because there's self and other. It's just the duality is being expressed more as a polarity and an interaction between what you would consider to be self and other, male and female, and light and dark. Yes. Yes, because if it's a realm truly of pure light, well, you can't really see anything. Yes, you can't differentiate anything or anyone, blinded by the light. So even in those realms of pure light, there's still certain amounts of darkness that allow for the interaction between self and other to take place, because the darkness is like a shadow that's cast. It's an illusion. And if you're having an experience, well, you're technically having an illusion. That doesn't mean it's false or it's unworthy, but what it does mean is you use illusion, you use duality, you use self and other to have experiences. And you do that on every single level of existence besides the monadic level. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think it does. So then whoops, on video. So I think then it, my takeaway or learning is not to think of the dark side as being bad or something that I want to bury my head in, but love it and accept it just as much as the experience of unconditional love because it's all learning.
That's
It's
what
all
we would advise. That's what we would advise. Yes,
yeah.
because if you vilify darkness, if you vilify negativity, remember, it's not as if you don't contain those things within you in some way. So if you invalidate it externally when you see darkness or negativity in the world or in others, you'll also be invalidating whatever darkness that you have within yourself, whatever negativity you have within yourself. And that creates a further schisming within the self to take place. Now, that
Mm,
doesn't mean you have to accept negativity as something that needs to be encouraged or does not need to be transformed. Remember, if you're seeing darkness, if you're seeing negativity in the world around you, we advise turn on a light. Do what you can to improve the situation. Do what you can to bring more love, more intelligence into the situation so it can become something much more beautiful. So it can become something much more preferable that brings people up. So when you share that unconditional love with the negativity, that doesn't mean you have to, as you said, bury your head in it. It doesn't mean you have to wear it like a costume. What it does mean is exactly what we were mentioning before. Use that love to build a bridge to the intelligence behind the negativity so you can make peace with it, so you can develop a relationship of respect with it, and so you can use it as a type of power that's not evil, that's not bad, but is actually a life affirming and nourishing type of energy. Because remember, what you call darkness, you experience every night when you go to sleep. Nothing wrong with it. It has its role, and clearly its role is to help beings rest and to dream. So keep that in mind. What that means is the beings of darkness can help you to manifest dreams. That's what that means. But the dreams that you have, of course, are connected to the subconscious, the depths of your being that are sometimes filled with things you'd rather not look at. So sometimes there's a fear related to it. So it's all about the application. If you wish to really be a source incarnate, and we're speaking to all of you, you have to have a relationship with light and dark. If you're just all light, you're not balanced. And as you know, when the pendulum gets pulled into one direction, eventually it swings in the other way. And if you don't have that conscious relationship with negativity, if you don't have the intelligence and the love as the energy behind that relationship, then when the pendulum does swing back, you won't be prepared. It'll be chaos. You'll feel like you're having the dark night of the soul all over again. So you don't have to go to those extremes. The light worker fantasy is just that, a fantasy. And we're not invalidating people that claim to be light workers, but many light workers will say, I'm here to vanquish darkness. I'm here to liberate people. And well, why not try liberating yourself from the limiting belief systems that have been adorned that cause one to vilify darkness? Then maybe you'll be ready to liberate others. So that's a message more for people that identify with that title. We're not necessarily saying that to you. We're not accusing you of that, but we're just letting you know that as you create that respectful, intelligent, and loving relationship with these forces will begin to blend in your heart. And you have access to their power, and you can use their power as you see fit. And of course, because you're evolving your heart in such a wonderful way, how you use that power will produce wonderful effects.